All right, guys, today's episode is on comparing fractions. That means kind of comparing to see which is bigger, which is smaller, which is the same. That's what I mean by comparing fractions. And so the first choice, the first option, would be to find a common denominator for all the fractions. So I kind of gave some examples here. I said a half, 5/10, 3/4. So I want to see which is bigger, which is smaller, which is the same. So one way to do this is to list all the multiples of these fractions. A quick and easy way to do that is to use your multiplication chart. So to look on your chart, to find a quick way to get all the multiples of 2, that means you skip count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, blah, blah, blah. And then for 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. And then for 10s, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way across. So I wrote down my multiples here. You can also find this chart on the back of your notebook and the multiplication chart back there. Then you want to find the least common multiple. This means which number is in all 3 of these lists. So if I look around, I see a 10 here and a 10 here, but not a 10 here. I see a 20, 20, and then a 20. So that would be my least common multiple. So that means I need to make new fractions using the least common multiple. Okay, so I wrote down that my LCM, my least common multiple, was 20. And so I'm going to make equivalent fractions using the LCM as the denominator. So I'm going to make some equivalent fractions now. So 1/2 is equivalent to what out of 20? So I'm looking for the factor. 2 times what equals 20? And if you're not sure about all these, again, remember to use your multiplication chart that we talked about in the video on Wednesday. So I'm looking for 1/2, and I slide my fingers all the way down, and I see that it's equivalent to 10 out of 20 because I multiply times 10. So this would be times 10. I would do 1 times 10, and that would give me 10. For 5/10, look on my chart. Here's 5/10. It's equivalent to 10 out of 20 because I multiply it times, 5/10 right here. I can do it this way. 5/10 right here, that's equivalent to 10 out of 20 because I multiply it times 2. So that would be times 2. This would be times 2. So 10 out of 20. And then for 4/20, 4 times 5 is 20. And 3 times 4 is 12. So now, once they all have the same denominator, it's pretty easy to see which one is larger. You can just say these two are the same, 10 out of 20 are the same, and 12 out of 20 is larger. So the biggest fraction out of this group would be the 3/4. Okay, so option number 2 is going to be, once you find your least common denominator for all the fractions and you compare them that way, if sometimes it's easier just to convert the fractions to each percent. So let's look back at these, and these are all benchmark fractions that we should know. A half is 50%. We know that 5 out of 10 is 50%. And then we also know that 3 out of 4 is 75%. And so when you have percents, it's really easy to compare the fractions. So those are your 2 choices. Those are the 2 best options, is to find a common denominator and make equivalent fractions, or convert your fractions to percentages. And if you forget how to do that, go back to your notes. I have a lot of notes. To this page right here, the converting fractions to percent. Remember to ask yourself the 3 questions. Is the fraction's denominator a factor of 100? If the answer is no, simplify the fraction so that it can be a factor of 100. If that still won't work, your 3rd option is to always draw a benchmark fraction. All right, so those are the end of this week's notes, and I'll see you guys next week.